All right, so I am back and I have put up a few Christmas decorations and uh, got some meal prepping done and things like that. So um, now I think I'm trying to figure out what direction this video is going into, but Spirit is telling me to pause it really quick. So let me get that in order, and then I'll come back and we'll do a little talky talk and things like that. I think now I'm wanting this video to more take a direction of speaking about something spirituality based, and as I was speaking earlier about, there seems to be this energy of wanting to give up, but at the same time also this energy of pushing forward, like not giving up and continuing to move in a energy that is in alignment, and like knowing that with the universe always being present with everything that we're doing, right? And the universe having our best interests in mind, there's always this question about why we experience some certain things, you know? And this thing about forgiveness and how you may hear, oh, that forgiveness is like instant. It's something that instantly happens. And I think that for the most part, right? And I'll speak about why I was in this sort of energy of just kind of like this fuck it type of energy, right? Like fuck it, just like done type of energy. And I've noticed that I always scratch my head in my videos for some reason, or I've been doing it recently. I guess it's like just noticing certain things within the universe, right? And when we are creating, right? Like there's this question of, do we create our reality, or is our reality already written? Like, is our story already written before we um, choose to be on in this human experience in life? And if that is true, what would be the point of creating the experience, or saying that, oh, your thoughts, feelings, and emotions create your reality? But if our reality was created before we were born into this human experience, then are we truly creating it, or are we living the story that we already wrote for ourselves prior to experiencing life? And there's no need to trying to figure it out, because it's, you know, if we're trying to figure out all of these things, then we're some way having to dig into the past and think about the future, you know, then we would lose the awareness of the present moment if we're doing all of those things. But knowing all of these things is what it means to be present and being aware. So, I don't know. Sometimes I think about how my channel isn't where I want it to be, and how in the past I've spoken about, well, in the past I deleted social media to have a break, but I didn't realize that, you know, by disconnecting from people, that then I would have to be starting from the ground to what the channel is now. And when I say the ground, like starting with the blank canvas, I guess you can say, would be the better analogy of that. And oftentimes I think about how I have experienced certain things that put me in this place of believing that forgiveness isn't a thing, although it is. Because certain experiences that we have learned, like certain experiences that have taught us certain things. We learn those certain things, and then we may get a message that is like, oh, you're forgiven. But then we have an experience that leads us to believe that that isn't true. And I was writing some lyrics, and the line in the lyric was, I don't trust you, but to win, I have to. And it's sort of how I have this thought about, like, with God, for the reason that a past experience of where I had an experience with a person was had, and I felt as if I forgave that person. Yet I had these feelings within my body that put me in this place of not, like, of reminding me of what they did, which also created this anger and resentment toward them, which was making it difficult for me to remain in that energy of forgiveness. And no matter how I remain in that energy of forgiveness, there's also this negative energy of reminding me of what they did. So, because that energy is also causing disruption, like causing something negative, right, to arise, and I'm creating this, or trying to create this positiveness about myself, it's like, is the negative energy the the negative energy can be described as like a karmic energy, right? Because karma is like something, like a reflection of something of the past being placed in the present to, like, maybe either cause change or awareness. And change was a word that came from the ancestors, right? But these are all the things of the divine feminine template, because the divine feminine is also known to be yin energy, chaos. And what I said in the previous video about the mother box that came from Justice League is that while there is destruction, there is also creation. And so what I wrote those lyrics on was this thought about how spirit, if spirit is telling you to move in a direction, right, and you are obedient and moving in that direction, and then you aren't receiving the expected abundance to move forward with that decision, did you follow the right message? And if you stay within the experience that is causing, I can say this. There was a woman that delivered the groceries, and her tattoo said, pain is temporary, love is eternal. And that meant a lot, and Spirit delivered that message to me. And it meant a lot because I was experiencing something that just seemed to be negative, but it just seems as if when I am experiencing things like that, I also identify with that as not being forgiven, because there was something that happened with the family member that caused that, like, repetitive experience within my body. And because I am clairsentient, it is something spiritual. So to go to a doctor and say, hey, I'm feeling this within my body, it's not much that they would be able to do, because it is a spiritual experience. And I know that it's spiritual because I'm also receiving the clear audient messages that it is something spiritual. The more that I sit with it, right, and it happens, and I hear these messages about, I know that it's hurting you, right? it just seems as if that is something demonic, right? You would think it's something demonic. And with that being said, when you are a psychic medium that receives any messages, and you have grew up in a family that has spoken about, oh, those tarot cards are the devil, and what you're doing is demonic and things like that in the past, and then you start experiencing things that a family member that considered themselves to be Christian did to you that caused this experience within your body to happen. It makes you think. It makes that feeling of failure become present, even though you know that you haven't failed. Failure is not even really a true thing. Hold on. Failure is can be considered a illusion, really. And to think about what I was saying earlier, if your story is already written for you to achieve success, then you've already achieved the success. You're already a winner. But I often question, with my experience, is when I have chosen to have morals and honor certain energies, and to have feelings of it not being reciprocated. And you know, when God is trying to move you from a situation, right? So clearly that could be what God is trying to do. But it seems like people that I could normally say, hey, could you help me with this, or could you help me with that? And it just have there's this feeling of knowing that when I have asked people for things in the past, and without reflecting on the past, because if you do reflect on the past, it means that you haven't been present, because you're focusing on past outcomes, right? But if you ignore the lessons from the past, that makes you also wise. So it is wise to be aware that the past is also great for the present, just like the future, and knowing what's coming in the future is also great for the present. But what I was saying was, I think it's better if I go with the flow of where my thoughts are taking me, and go with the wind, is what I was hearing, kind of like Pocahontas. I think that they would make a live action movie, by now. I know that there are some times, and I had this, I kept thinking about Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks, right? But anyway, I'm going to continue with where my thoughts were going about twin flame stuff, and I had a message, and I'm not sure why I have these clear sentient feelings in my private area. It's like a thumping going on my shaft of my thingaling, right? And for you that aren't aware of what clear sentience is, right? Clear sentience is clear feeling. So that can be nudges, it can be like pressure in certain areas of the body, and this like to send you messages. Now, when I have messages that are in that area, it kind of reminds me that, and I've spoken about this in the previous experiences, that with uh, Scorpio, the zodiac sign, it focuses on, it is the ruler of the private area. And it's kind of like when you have a twin flame, a lot of things that are within your experience are mirrored from them, right? But what I have also become aware of within my experiences, some things within your twin flame experience can be thoughts that you have of them. They can be thoughts of them. Like you have created certain thoughts of them, and those things are also sometimes reflected to you to remind you that you are on the journey with them. And while I am moving in that direction, I want to say about the twin flame journey is that when there is this runner and chaser dynamic, and they are running, and you have been taught by other spiritualists that you are not meant to chase them, right? Because you have become aware that as being on the journey, when you do chase them, then sometimes you receive some type of, like, it can be some type of karma behind it. And I'm not saying karma is like a bad thing, because karma can be good things, because when you actually do teach them certain things, you can receive good karma because they are considered your mirror. They are considered the other half of you in a energetic aspect, right? And so there is this duty to both, align with spirit so that you can both spiritually rise in consciousness, essentially. But what I haven't understood on my path, and what has been keeping me from truly investing in the journey, is the knowing that there was this thought that all twin flames were meant to be together in the lifetime that they have met. And I have seen twin flames that choose soulmates. And I just don't understand it. As much as I try to understand it, I don't. And at the same time, I feel like sometimes there's this push for me to also join that type of energy. Like, because my twin has been with a soulmate for a while, and they haven't showed interest in wanting to indulge in a relationship with me in an intimate way, in a loving way, and wanting, it hasn't been like reflected the way that I have expected it to be reflected, right? When you're in that no contact experience with your twin flame, it seems like, well, there are all of these messages about why they do this and why they do that, and why they're in no contact, or why you're in separation still, and everybody has these certain certain knowledge about the connection, right? It just seems like, well, if that's the case, and if our purpose is here for us to learn about learn our existence, it's like, if we all have done this over and over again every lifetime, what's the purpose of us learning the same thing repeatedly? Like, are we truly learning it? Because after we finish high school, we're just done with high school. Just like, I get it, like, if I get it in the sense of it being life, because if we had nothing else to learn, it would be no purpose for us to learn during the lifetime. And also, holding on to them is also not true love, in the sense of keeping them caged to being yours. Like, having ownership over them. Like, they are a person. And saying that they are yours is saying that they can't they don't have the freedom to choose to be with somebody else. And that is true love, because also knowing that you're able to release them in a way that they can choose to love somebody else, it's also that knowing that it's painful in a sense of releasing them in that way and saying, oh, they could possibly not choose to be with me. And then when they do choose to be with a soulmate, it's that realization of them doing that, of what you thought they were going to do and they did. And so often the divine feminine is lonely because wanting a soulmate and pushing herself in that direction of choosing a soulmate, knowing that she loves her twin flame and that she receives messages that guide her to her twin flame, is difficult. And I've heard so many times that, oh, if your twin flame is choosing a soulmate, that is because you're choosing a soulmate. And while I do understand what is being said, there it seems to be, it may be true for their experience, but for my experience, the most recent uh, relationship with a soulmate in that way of partnership and love and intimacy was 2019, and it's now 2023. So I don't understand how that's a reflection of something within myself. And it could be just that 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 the divine masculine is learning their lessons. And at the same time, while God can be very patient with us, and we are in some ways learning that patience within our journey, it seems kind of pointless in a way, because if we, in a way, not like a total sense of pointlessness, but a sense of, okay, so you're just trying to show us that we're able to love in the same way that they have loved, or in some ways we're pushed to be their karma in a way, like because they have chose to date a soulmate, now, oh, we can do the same. But that would just put us in this cycle of doing tick for tack. And in my past relationship, I also, me and my partner would have disagreements about tick for tat, like, oh, you do this because I did this, and I did this because you would do that. But if I just experience you doing those things, what lesson is actually being learned? And if I have to show you what you did in a karmic type of way, I've stepped out of presence to be what you were, which can also cause me to have karma in some type of way, like a karmic cycle, because you have chose to do it and you have your own karma. But because I have to reflect what that person did, then that would say that, oh, I have a similar karma to them. But that's not what is meant. That's not the intention. The intention is to, have good karma, yes. And, to not have a balance of karma. It's kind of like, oh, that would just be great. To have good karma all the time, that would be very, very great. But there has to be a balance so that we understand, like, not even understand presence, but understanding that life is light and dark. It is yin and yang. It is a balance. The circle of life. I can't even explain to you how many times I've been told to trust the universe by this certain energy that I experience as being source consciousness. And when I have experienced this energy, I've also experienced another type of energy that's also been like, how would I explain it without calling it deceptive? Is that it's a reminder of how people have treated me in the past. And so it's kind of like, with those reminders, it's kind of like, well, how can I how can I continue presence with that type of energy being reflected? And when I move in a direction that is close to my twin, it seems sometimes like, oh, the energy just starts to settle itself, or starts to get kind of like, oh, moving in the right direction because you're moving towards your twin flame. But then in the 3D, what they're reflecting isn't like a it isn't a reflection of not only what I think it should be, but it's not a reflection of a lot of things. I guess a lot of things would just be the correct answer. And that's how I was going to say, that's how you know it's your twin flame too. Because when you can't really explain it, you know that is your twin. You also know that it's your twin when you try to move on and be with a soulmate, and you just continue to just think about them. And what I read about a karmic soulmate, is that a karmic soulmate, it makes it difficult to move forward. It makes it difficult um, to become better, and you know, it makes it difficult, right? And so, what if you have created somebody to be a karmic that's not actually a karmic? What if you have created an idea of them to be karmic and then they're not karmic? And then you say that you have forgiven them, and then on the same spectrum of that, maybe the karmic, I wouldn't call it karmic debt, but the karma that is being served back to you is the thought forms that you have created about that person. But now you have to somewhat forgive yourself. But although you think that you have forgiven yourself, it's just like you're being reminded that you have already learned your lessons. And so if spirit is trying to push you in a new direction, but you don't have what you think you should have to move forward, how do you move forward? Because I think when I was last feeling some experiences within my experience that were pushing me to want to unalive oneself. And I say this with complete confidence because it's true. And when feeling like that, I had questions about the purpose of me not signing those papers in prison when they asked me where, I'm not even sure if you can say this on YouTube, but suicidal watch, right? Because I wasn't speaking to them, but I didn't consider myself suicidal at all. And it seems like when I didn't admit it, then, because it wasn't true, but then I had these experiences in the past with my family members that caused me to feel that way, and then with my twin flame not being present in my experience, so it also caused like these other feelings, and also being lonely, it did cause those feelings to arise. Honestly, there was these feelings of just what was the reason of me experiencing those things. in thinking that I was moving in the right direction with trying to serve my purpose as a twin flame medium, but I was at the same time trying to understand my purpose. And something that I told my twin prior to us separating was that I need your help with I said I'm going to need your help with with the experience. And I think that in some ways it also caused the divine to make it true, because the divine does always answer your manifestations with yes, right? And because it is the other half of me, of course they would want that. And so he agreed to wanting to help with some things on social media in the past, but because we did have disagreements that caused the separation and him not, wanting to commit to a relationship intimately with me, that caused for us to basically not want those things anymore. So it kind of was like, well, what to do now? Just let him go, release him, just move forward and do it on my own and find a soulmate that hopefully has certain views that are close to what I view as view as spiritual, or you know like a high level soulmate is what they call it. And so with that experience, right, when I am continuously reminded of my twin, it makes me feel as if, or I want to say it makes me feel as if it's this feeling, though, as if I'm meant to be with them, although they don't want the same thing, or at least that's what they are reflecting. And if they are running away from the journey, why would I be receiving any type of, you know, karma because of it? But at the same time, if they are my divine counterpart, I understand why it will be, you know, reflected as such. Like why I would be receiving some type of karma from their experience, because we are a divine whole, right? In the 5D, but in the 3D, we're not, you know, presenting in that way. So it's just, I kind of wonder about these things. I've gotten these messages that are like, well, move and, try to find you a place and stuff like that. And also I've gotten messages that are like, oh, stay and everything's going to be okay and everything's going to work in your, work, everything's going to be working for you. Because really, what is just not present right now for myself and my experience is a career that is bringing in abundance in a monetary way. And honestly, I think that Spirit knows that if I did have that type of abundance, I probably wouldn't focus so much on my twin at all. And I think that sometimes we often, as divine feminine, experience that so that we are reminded of them and so that we just don't leave them completely in the dust. But what about when they're able to date other people, But they always say to trust your experience. Because often too, what you realize is that when you do receive what you were asking for, you realize that maybe you didn't want it, um, or maybe you aren't ready for what you were asking for like you thought you were. And that's okay. That's okay. But also when those people that are coming around, you ask, well, what are you gonna do about about money and things like that, and you don't have a answer, and everything that you're trying to do isn't working out, and it's just like, well, what direction do I move in? Because if I move with them only for them to be denying that we're like meant to be together, then that's just gonna push me in the direction of the same experience that I'm having without them, with them. And I think that that's the point of separation, so that you know how to be with them, but not completely like putting all of your needs and wants on them. And I think that that's also the other reason that I've wanted that type of financial abundance. So I wouldn't have to say, hey, every time I'm wanting something, hey, can you provide this? And hey, can you provide that? And knowing that they may not be able to financially provide those things. And also knowing that with many twin flame coaches, and because I have learned so much about the twin flame experience, that I could start a business around it, but it would make it more profitable if we could both show up together. But just knowing that it was brought up to them, my twin flame, and him not wanting, or showing interest in it is just kind of like, okay, well, and also knowing that, many twin flame teachers have spoken about not sharing your spiritual teachings with them. And it's just like, well, what's the point of the experience? What is the point of it? And then when you receive all of the knowledge that you have been searching for, then it's just like, well, okay, what do I do with it? Is it just a gift for myself? So, yeah. I'm not sure if this is like the word for it, but like a regret about quitting my job at Amazon, because I did have money coming in, but I was also in a relationship at that time that just wasn't where I wanted to be after I met my twin flame. And I think that a lot of twin flames have, you know, um, believed that they were going to achieve union. A lot of us. It doesn't mean that we have failed. It just means that we've become aware of the the true idea of the twin flame journey, right? Because I've heard a lot of twin flames have been separated for many, many years, and it's just like, for what? And when you make a decision like leaving a marriage for them, and then there hasn't been some type of karmic balance to your idea of it yet, like, it's just like when the tables turn, right? But they turn in a way of you leaving the soulmate that you were with to be with them, but them then being with a soulmate and you not being in a relationship in that way is kind of like, well, what's the point? What's the point of playing a game that is just being more not like teammates on the same team, but being teammates that play against each other? Not to say that it's anything like enemies, but to say like, oh, friends playing against each other. That just makes no sense. If our purpose is to work together, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm also aware that things don't come to your awareness until you're ready for the information. How many cycles does, and it's not even cycles, but when we experience as divine divine feminine mediums and things like that, the remembrance of our twin consecutively and over again. It's kind of like, well, what the fuck? Is it a hell or something? Like, is it hell to be reminded of somebody that is like basically playing games and in some way like reflecting something opposite of what you have been taught that it was going to be, or maybe you created what you thought it was going to be and it's something different, right? But what I'm saying is, when you become aware of them and you say, oh, that's my twin flame, but you also attach the idea, which is also a manifestation that then starts to become true about them. So is it, have you created that? Have you created that cycle because you've attached every idea of a twin flame to that one particular person? Or are they truly your twin flame? And how you also know that they're truly your twin flame is that usually you'll have signs that have shown like from past like childhood things, your teenage things. There will be things within your life that will always show you that they are your twin, right? But also, when you try to move in certain directions, you will be taught by people that will remind you of them or something about them. Even some of the teachers that I had in the beginning, they had certain things that were either a reflection of him, my divine masculine, or the reflection of me, the divine feminine. And so, to me, when we are experiencing these repetitive messages from the universe that this is your twin flame, this is your twin flame, this is your twin flame, and every other experience is like, well, are you doing the same thing to them to remind them? Because most divine feminine are open to being in a relationship with their twin flame and figuring out the purpose, and not even figuring out the purpose, but knowing the purpose and ready to stand 10 toes down with them through the bullshit and be able to teach others how to love unconditionally. But we also have to learn how to love ourselves unconditionally. In that same sense, because they are the divine masculine and we are the divine feminine, and together we make usually, it's, I would think of it as the spirit of God within our experience. The divine feminine and divine masculine, the yin and the yang, together we make spirit, the entire soul, in the 5D and in the 3D. And so when that isn't complete within the 3D, to me it just seems like not purposeless, because it is a purpose for us to, have the separation of the journey, right? So that we can understand why it is important for us to experience each other within this experience. But it seems like sometimes that the divine feminine is learning the same things every lifetime, and I wouldn't call it a hell, right? But it can seem that way when it's just like when Damon of the Vampire Diaries, right, was experiencing the hell with his mother, and he called it his own personal hell. When the divine feminine is receiving messages about her divine masculine over and over again, just like when Elena was experiencing those dreams of Stefan while she was with Damon, it made no sense to me from a divine feminine perspective of why of how she could be with Damon when she was having dreams of Stefan. Because in some ways, that's what it was like experiencing my ex within meeting my divine masculine. It was like I'm having these intense feelings of another man outside of the relationship that is claiming heterosexualism and I'm a gay man, and why am I having these feelings that usually I'm able to say, okay, well, whatever. With my divine masculine, I wasn't able to do that. And so for me, that was kind of like, well, what? Like, why am I having these feelings? And even I had this flag within my bedroom, and it was from his ethnic background. And I, from my knowledge, I had people that were attached to that ethnic background within my family, but I myself, who is whole and complete, I don't think that I had that type of ethnic background in a sense of DNA. I don't think that it's attached to my DNA, but because also they are the other half of my soul, which would make them me and me them, then I guess you could say that I am also the ethnic background. So, but before meeting them, I just had the flag, which is their ethnic background, in my room. Like somehow my spirit, what does it say? The mirror inside of me, the mirror inside of me knew, or whatever. My spirit knew that I had some type of attachment to this ethnic background. And when I met him, it all made sense. It all was just perfect. I understood the experience that was happening. And when all of the messages came forward saying, that is your twin, it just was like, okay, but why are they not reflecting what I am feeling after, and they he only kind of really started reflecting that he wasn't feeling the same thing after he realized that there were deeper feelings for myself, I guess. But also, I think that there was a time that he realized that because I was with this soulmate, that I would have probably responded like maybe his past soulmates and not remove that blockage for him. And then when I did leave that soulmate for him, he then chose another soulmate. So that caused some type of karma for me because I left this soulmate in a type of way that maybe I could have exited that relationship in a way that would have been more I could have did it in a different way. I could have left that relationship in a way that kind of put me in a place to grow, like in a way, because what happened was I did leave my job at Amazon. I left my job at Honda. I didn't set myself up to be in a financially abundant place at that time. And so I did gain a lot of gifts spiritually because I became aware of the twin flame consciousness. I became aware of clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizant, clairsent, all of these spiritual gifts. And then trying to start a job from the ground up and wanting him to be a part of it and then it not happening was like shattering in a way. I guess you can say for the ego, it was that way. But all of those things that were released for him and all of those things that I said to my ex of how I was going to give everything back that I had lost in the past. And then to be where I am now, it was humbling. It was humbling to realize that, or to have that feeling of maybe things that he's felt in the past, of not being worthy enough to have somebody to love him enough to end a relationship to be with him, you know? But where does that leave me for myself? Not being in a relationship and waiting on somebody that has chose to love other people, even though they know that they have a journey with. I can say for myself, I knew that I had this journey with him, but also releasing him and allowing him to love a soulmate. And this is what I spoke about earlier, is also growth. You know what I'm saying? It's spiritual growth. I can't I can't tell you how many times, I could tell you, but it's just been a lot. How many times that Spirit has said, "Oh, well, just trust and trust and trust." And I'm not saying that it isn't possible for them to one day love me the way that I have loved them, and choose to leave a relationship the way that I have chosen to leave a relationship in the past for him. I'm not saying that can't happen, but what I am saying is that, and you can't put a time on it. So just asking how long would just kind of be like, well, divine timing. But at this moment now, and what I have seen a lot is the number 10, and 10 can represent wholeness and things like that, and just realizing that you are whole and complete, but you do deserve to be loved. I think I just also have understood that I know that within a partner, I wouldn't want to experience somebody that is dependent in a way of spirituality, but also isn't spiritually challenging in a way that it doesn't it doesn't it isn't like they have to teach me in that way that I would have to. You get what I'm saying? Like, you want them to be like just spiritually in alignment with what I'm spiritually in alignment with. And it would just make sense that it would be them because they're the other half of your soul. But anyway, um, I'm aware of a lot of things. We just know everything is divine. I just know that everything is divine timing. Everything's going to work out when it's supposed to. I also realize that because we do create our own paths in life, or our paths are already created before birth, that we create this journey of life. So, cheers to trust. Or if I had a cup, cheers to trust, and hoping that things work out the way that they're supposed to, and not being, jealous of other people's success, because I'm really happy that other people are succeeding. I'm just also going to be very happy when it is myself. And maybe I'm not ready for it. And that also is growth, knowing that maybe I'm not ready for it. So, cheers to when it is time. And we'll let God decide that when it is ready. Tarot cards used to be my passion. And I'm going to close out on this part. But within this house, because the owner of it spoke about, not wanting tarot cards done in her house, because I guess the last time I gave her a tarot card reading, it was just so surreal for her that, she just realized how powerful I am. But anyway, maybe I'll find a way to do it that, it isn't like very uncomfortable, because at least I wouldn't have to walk all the way to the to the grocery store, but I could find another area to do it that could be comfortable if that's what Spirit wants me to do. And because I said if that's what Spirit wants me to do, who knows? So we'll figure it out. So then, toodaloo, love you.